Isolations. There are several moves for the whip that are called isolations, isospins, isotosses, and sometimes when you ask how to really nail a certain move, the answer is, well, you have to isolate. And when you're a beginner and don't know this term already from other flow arts, probably wonder, well, what is isolating? What are isolations? What am I meant to do? Isolations are not a single move, but a whole concept that occurs in all kinds of flow arts, in all kinds of different shapes. The idea behind it is that you move the center of your spinning. So the center where your prop moves around, away from the body part that is the motor which drives the whole movement. And that you isolate this different point or this different area in mid-air. It can be a different point on your prop itself, and it can be a different point or area just somewhere else, maybe another body part. So what does that mean? Usually when you're spinning like this, circle just on the vertical plane, your hand is the motor which drives the movement, which keeps the whip spinning, and the handle spins around in a circle, and your hand is also the kind of the center point, the axis or the center area of the spin. When you isolate, you shift the center point to a different point, which is when you're really clean with your isolation. It can be just in the middle between your hand and the handle, and this point is really one single point in mid-air that is isolated, and you have your hand and your handle of your whip moving around this center point. So your hand is still the motor that drives the whole movement, but it's not anymore the center of the movement. And this can occur in all kinds of shapes. I gave you a couple of examples in the beginning with my little demonstration. So you have for the whip these vertical isolations, then you can have horizontal isolations like this. Here, when you just spin on the horizontal bottom plane, then your hand is the motor of the movement. It keeps the whip spinning, and the handle and the whole whip, they describe such a cone which is anchored here at the center point where your hand is. And when you isolate, this center point is again here somewhere in the middle of your whip, and your hand and your handle, they both circle above or below this center point, and the upper part and the bottom part, they both describe a cone shape coming out here from this center point in the middle of your whip, or in the middle of the distance between your hand and the handle. An example for a different area that can be isolated, you can isolate with this horizontal spin around your leg, like this, until your hand doesn't follow anymore, your hand can't drive around the whip any further, and it turns into a wrap then. So in this case, the center of the movement is not on the whip itself, but the center around which the whip circles is your leg. And that is the same thing for these body isolations, where you move the whole whip around your body. What are isolations good for? Well, they create interesting and nice shapes by themselves. Another effect they do, that they shrink the circle. When you just spin and your hand is the center of this spin, of this circle, then the diameter of this circle is twice the distance between your hand and your handle. If you isolate, and in case the isolation was really clean, it's only once the distance between your hand and the handle that describes here the circle. And you can use this effect in your spinning when you end up in a rather long grip. There are a lot of moves where you just have to let your whip slide a bit through your fingers. Maybe you did something like this, and then you spin back, and suddenly you are at this length and not at the arm length that is comfortable for these kind of spins. but you're a lot longer, and your floor and the ceiling are in danger to be hit. So if you're really spinning and keep your hand in the center, you have to really check, ooh, do I have my ceiling, do I have a floor? If you isolate, now the circle is smaller, and so there's less danger of hitting your floor or your ceiling. Same thing when you want to spin around your legs. Maybe you want to do something like this and just go around your leg. If you just spin, then either you hit the other leg that is in the way, or you lift the other leg to wrap around the leg you want to wrap around, or you need a really wide stance. But when you isolate, you can really steer your whip right through here in between. These kind of body isolations are fun moves just by themselves, I think. And for this kind of stuff, these are called isospins for a reason, because you have to isolate as well as for these isotosses. Without isolating, you won't get the handle up back to a point where you can catch the whip again, so there you need to isolate. So isolating is a useful skill that can contribute a lot to your spinning, and in the next videos I go over some of the variations.